Danny and Fumi's whirlwind romance had swept them from the vibrant heart of Beijing. What began as an adventurous escape quickly morphed into a complex dance of cultural clashes and personal revelations. Fumi, ever the adaptable one, found herself enchanted by the ancient city, its ornate temples and bustling markets. Danny, however, struggled. He saw only the differences, the language barrier a brick wall against his usual charm. The Great Wall was a turning point, or so Fumi thought. Standing atop the ancient stones, the world stretching out before them, Danny finally seemed to relax. He even tried, albeit clumsily, to use the few Mandarin phrases Fumi had taught him. As they shared a thermos of jasmine tea, Fumi allowed herself to believe they were finding their rhythm, their differences blending into a unique melody. She was falling for Danny, hard and fast, but shadows lingered in her heart. His initial excitement about China had waned, replaced by a gruff impatience that left Fumi confused and hurt. One evening, after a particularly frustrating attempt at ordering food, Danny snapped. He lashed out at the waiter, his words a torrent of English frustration. Fumi, mortified, apologized profusely, her cheeks burning with shame. Later, back at Danny's apartment, he simply shrugged, dismissing the incident as if it were nothing. It was the first crack in Fumi's idealized image of him, a crack that threatened to widen with each passing day. He was upset because he was finally fired as the Chinese Olympic team chiropractor. The air crackled with anticipation as they entered the club, the throbbing music a stark contrast to the serene temples they had visited that day. Knight of the Red Dragon, Danny had read aloud from the flyer, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Sounds like our kind of scene. Fumi, usually game for anything, felt a knot of unease in her stomach. Danny had been drinking heavily all day, his earlier frustration morphing into a sullen silence that was broken only by the clinking of beer bottles. The club was a kaleidoscope of lights and bodies, a mix of locals and tourists all moving to the pulsating beat. Danny, emboldened by the alcohol and the unfamiliar surroundings, kept pulling Fumi closer, his grip possessive and rough. She tried to laugh it off, to keep the mood light, but inside a seed of doubt began to grow. Then it happened. A black man with a friendly smile caught Fumi's eye and smiled at her. Danny noticed, and jealousy flared in his eyes. Fumi didn't understand the sudden change, but she understood the aggression in Danny's tone. Before she could react, Danny shoved the man, his face contorted in a rage she had never seen before. A scuffle broke out, bodies jostling, shouts echoing over the music. Fumi, terrified, tried to pull Danny away, but he was like a man possessed. It was the intervention of the club's bouncers, large and imposing, that finally ended the fight. Danny, fuming and bruised, allowed himself to be led away, throwing a final venomous glare at the man. Fumi, shaken and disillusioned, followed silently behind. The night air was thick with humidity as Fumi found herself standing alone on the bustling streets of Beijing. 1 minute she had been by Danny's side, the next he had disappeared into the labyrinthine alleys, his anger a living, breathing thing. "Just needed some air," he had muttered, brushing past her, his eyes dark and distant. That had been hours ago. Now, surrounded by the unfamiliar sights and sounds of Yangping-Lu, she felt a wave of panic wash over her. The street signs, all in Mandarin, mocked her with their unfamiliarity. Her phone was dead, the charger back at Danny's apartment. She tried to retrace their steps, but every turn seemed to lead her further astray. Exhaustion gnawed at her, amplified by the emotional turmoil of the night. She thought of Danny, of his outburst, of the fear she had seen in his eyes. Was this the man she was falling for? A man who could be so easily provoked, so quick to anger? The image of him laughing, full of excitement for their adventure, seemed like a lifetime ago. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and orange, Fumi finally stumbled upon a familiar landmark, the imposing gates of the Forbidden City. Relief washed over her, followed by a wave of bone-deep weariness. She had never felt so alone, so lost, so utterly uncertain of what the future held.
Danny's first trip to Nigeria was an awakening. He landed in Lagos, a city pulsating with energy. The humid air, thick with the scent of spices and exhaust fumes, was overwhelming. He traveled to Fumi's village, a world away from the bustling city. He was welcomed with open arms and curious stares. He participated in traditional ceremonies, some bewildering, others awe-inspiring. He slaughtered a goat as a symbol of his commitment to Fumi. He met with the village elders, their faces etched with wisdom. Danny felt a growing respect for the traditions that had shaped Fumi. The wedding was a grand affair. Days of vibrant celebrations culminated in a ceremony rich with symbolism. Danny, dressed in traditional attire, felt the weight of centuries-old customs. He saw the pride in the eyes of Fumi's family. He understood the responsibility he was undertaking. He made promises to honor and cherish Fumi, his vows echoing in the air thick with incense. The celebration continued late into the night, a fusion of Nigerian rhythms and American pop music. It was a testament to their love, a bridge between two worlds. Fumi's royal lineage was not merely ceremonial. It was a tangible force, shaping her life and her future with Danny. The bride price, a tradition deeply rooted in Nigerian culture, was substantial. It was a testament to Fumi's worth, a recognition of her family's status. Danny, though initially taken aback, understood its significance. It was not a purchase, but a gesture of respect. It was a promise to provide for and protect Fumi. He embraced the tradition, recognizing it as an integral part of their union. Section 5. The Long Wait. Danny returned to Los Angeles, his heart heavy with Fumi's absence. The immigration process was a labyrinth of paperwork and waiting. 6 months, 6 long months of phone calls and fleeting visits. The distance strained their relationship. Danny threw himself into his chiropractic practice, struggling to make a name for himself. He shared stories of her with colleagues, his voice softening as he described her. Each passing day was a reminder of the life they were building, a life on hold. The loneliness became unbearable. Fumi, grappling with her own anxieties in Nigeria, sought solace in a familiar face. It was a fleeting affair, fueled by uncertainty and a longing for connection. She confessed to Danny, her voice trembling with remorse. Silence. The weight of her betrayal hung heavy in the air. Danny, his heart shattered, struggled to reconcile the woman he loved with the pain she had caused. Forgiveness, he realized, was a journey. Forgiveness, they discovered, was a two-way street. Fumi acknowledged her mistake, the guilt etched on her face. Danny confronted his own shortcomings. The distance, the silence had created a chasm between them. They vowed to rebuild their trust, brick by fragile brick. The wait became a period of introspection. They engaged in difficult conversations, peeling back layers of hurt and resentment. They emerged stronger, their love tempered by the fires of trial and forgiveness. Fumi's visa was finally approved. She arrived in Los Angeles, her heart filled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. She had dreamt of a life with Danny in America. She envisioned a spacious home, a testament to his success. The reality was a far cry from her expectations. Danny's apartment, a cramped studio in a rundown building, was a shock. The dissonance between her dreams and the reality of his life in America was stark. She was embarrassed to let her family know how bad she was doing in Los Angeles. Fumi stood frozen, her luggage at her feet, a wave of emotions washing over her. Disappointment, confusion, a flicker of doubt. Danny, sensing her unease, reached for her hand. His touch, familiar and reassuring, grounded her. They were finally together, but their journey was far from over. The chasm between their worlds had followed them across continents. Could their love survive the weight of unspoken expectations and the harsh realities of their new life?